Welcome to episode 396, Zell The Grave Dancer, 10 Lessons. This is an outline of episode 396, lesson 1 to lesson 5. This is an outline of episode 396, lesson 6 to lesson 10. Lesson number 1, he's the father of REIT, Real Estate Investment Trust.
In 1990 or 1992, the public real estate market in the United States was $7 billion. Today, the public real estate market is $700 billion. I would guess that 10 years from now, that number would likely to be $1.5 trillion.
Lesson number 2, 64 years as entrepreneur.
The world has changed. I set up an entrepreneurial center at the University of Michigan 14 years ago. At that time, you could count the number of entrepreneurial centers in the country on one hand. And even then, I set it up at the University of Michigan to a large extent against the wishes of the faculty who believed that entrepreneurship was junk science. What is an entrepreneur's attitude? His attitude is he not only sees the problems, but envisions the solution.
Lesson number 3, his biggest success, his biggest failure. It all happened in 2007, the same year. He sold his right to Blackstone private equity for $39 billion. Then he purchased the Chicago Tribune for $8.2 billion and lost a lot of money. Lesson number 4, the story of the United States is a story of entrepreneurs and immigrants.
Take an immigrant son. I was born 90 days after my parents came to this country.
The entrepreneurship gene is what America is all about. The reason that America is exceptional is the fact that we are a country of immigrants who, by definition, are self-selective and have taken an enormous risk to leave wherever they left to start anew. That sets a pattern that creates a very different society. And we may be the oldest operating democracy, but what we really are is the oldest operating entrepreneurship opportunity the world has ever seen.
I completely agree. This is it.
Lesson number 5, he has 2 mentors, his father and Jay Pritzker.
My father was one of my key mentors. My father, worked 7 days a week, was driven, and I saw that, and that was kind of my model with a guy named Jay Pritzker. Experience. And he had this truly unique ability to listen to a very complex story and understand where the fulcrum of risk was.
Lesson number 6, you must be right 70% of the time.
From my perspective, I start every potential investment focused on what's the downside. You got to remember that they pay guys $25 million a year to get a hit 1 out of 3 times. I would be broke if I were successful only 1 out of 3 times. So I think our perspective is to be right 70 or 75% of the time. But of greater importance is to understand the degree to which we were wrong in the other 30 and build that into the way we think and the way we take risk.
So you take risk.
Lesson number 7, conventional wisdom is irrelevant.
Really a wonderful, empowering story because you were able to come from nothing.
I think I started by assuming that conventional wisdom was irrelevant. There's been a lot of times in my life when it's been lonely being, an entrepreneur with a viewpoint that nobody else shared.
Lesson number 8, how to build a company. The enemy is without.
I've heard you say the quote, "The enemy is without." What does that mean?
Well, you know, I've started a lot of businesses. The people within that organization don't compete with each other, to get them to understand that they need to focus on competing not with the guy at the next desk, but the guy across the street.
Lesson number 9, liquidity equals value.
I don't think the word financing is correct. I think liquidity is the right word. And, you know, we have an extraordinary level of liquidity worldwide. We also have an extraordinary shortage of income emanating from brick and mortar. The result of those two things is that any existing stream of income is today generating a premium over any historical basis because there is such a shortage of any kind of income. I mean, but, you know, liquidity is value. And ultimately, you have no value if you have no liquidity. And you have value if you have liquidity. And, you know, there have been various times in my career where I've been through numerous cycles. And probably the one that reminded me the most was in 1992, where Forbes said I had a net worth of about $1.5 billion, and I was worried about whether I was going to be able to make payroll on Friday. The answer was I had all these wonderful assets, and they were worth a lot of money, except they weren't relevant if I didn't have liquidity.
Lesson number 10, what is luck? And how to take advantage of luck.
In you getting to the next level as you created this empire?
I met a lot of fabulous people, and they set examples for me that I applied going forward. And I think that that's where luck enters the picture. And then can you take advantage of the luck when it comes your way?
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and leave your questions and comments below. Wishing everyone peace and prosperity.